and did you receive some um, feedbacks of how it went for them, for
Oh, they
the
loved it.
one?
No, they loved it. They're very grateful. They can't wait. They're
Yes.
literally counting seconds for Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, so, and they're absolutely, how can I say it? Absolutely empowered by the
Oh
fact that
yes.
there is someone like you who can take their work into another level and have
Yeah.
it, have a supervision on the work. Because again, our Minister of Health had just sent an official article saying that at this moment, already 15 million of Ukrainians need psychological support, and 4
Ah.
million of them,
Ah.
need medical treatment already.
Ah.
You know,
Wow.
and these are just reports, they're official reports, because these people who were evaluated, they went through evaluation, they went
Yes.
registered, they got registered, so it's
Yeah.
official data.
Yes. It's
but
official.
but
Yes.
official comes, so
So
50.
this corresponds to what I was saying this morning. I was saying that you have a whole nation
Every
traumatized.
single person,
So,
yeah.
so you have the data.
Mm.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, that's very good.
So
So
we,
if I,
mhm.
I had the feeling when I discuss this morning for you that what I prepare is at a very high conceptual level, maybe maybe too high for the people. I'm not sure, but it's possible that. But I can go down and become very practical all the time.
Oh, of course, but remember, Jules, we also, the way you designed a workshop speaks for every single human being in
Yes,
Ukraine,
yes,
regardless to the background, regardless
yeah,
to their, educational, well,
yes,
history. So
yes.
that's our main goal. Whenever it
Go,
comes to these guys who you met today, yes, they are in practice already, but that's
yeah,
a different approach. But we need to take
good.
into consideration that 15 millions who already are
Yes,
officially in need of help,
yes,
they need access to this information, such as, even the writing in this online workshop, that will, the theoretical one that will record.
we will take about 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit more, to present theory on psychotrauma. It's a very conceptual uh, content, but this conceptual content is necessary to understand what we talk to make distinctions. So the first concept is the traumatic event themselves, it itself. When we talk of psychotrauma, we have to understand that there is something that happened, and then we have a reaction, and then after that first reaction, we have other reactions. So we have to put things in a sequence. And the first thing in that sequence is what we call a traumatic event. And the psychotrauma itself is caused by a disturbing event. So we have to make the distinction between the event and the psychotrauma itself. So this event must be to provoke psychotrauma. This event must be intense. It must be intense, sudden, unforeseen, and cause a deep fear that might be paralyzing. So sometimes Some people will go through something very difficult, but they will not be paralyzed by this. They will be, for them, it's normal. For example, a police officer who works day after day with criminality, it's used to that. But a civil who would do one day the same work will be overwhelmed. You see? So you have the experience, the subjectivity, and all this. So this disturbing event may constitute a threat to the security, to the integrity at a physical or psychological level to a person. It may generate physical wants. You may be um, hurt physically, and your life can be in danger. And the traumatic quality of the event depends of objective conditions. So you have the outside reality, but you have another side of it, which is the subjective perception. So the way you perceive this reality. So we have an event which is disturbing. This is in the reality, and then you have yourself, your own perception of that reality. So it begins to be complex when you distinguish all these parameters, all these variables. So I will often refer to objectivity, subjectivity, because our perceptions are always subjective, and they depend of our experiences, of our emotions, and many other things. So you and me will not perceive the same house or the same car or the same people the same way. Sometimes it's funny that we ask two people to describe an event, a very simple event, and you will have two different stories for the same thing that just happened few minutes ago. So this is subjectivity. We have to work with that all the time. And for a therapist, we can say that it is not the external reality that is the most important, but it is the subjective internal lecture of that reality which is most important, because this one will trigger thinking, ideas, perceptions, emotions, and then behaviors. It's this subjective representation of the reality that makes that is responsible for the differences in our response to the reality. Is that okay with you?
No, it's crystal clear. And if I may,
Are you, yeah, it's okay?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely, yes, thank you. I'll get to questions afterwards because we're going through
sure,
theory, yeah, and then yeah, I'm writing
sure,
them down.
no problem. You take notes. That's
Mhm.
perfect. Okay, page 2.
We
This event must be, when we talk of a traumatic event, it must be major and it must be massive. So you have sometimes, and we discussed that yesterday, you have sometimes intentional acts. You have some people who intentionally want to abuse, to aggress, and to harm you intentionally. But you may have accidents. So accidents are unintentional. It's bad, but it's it's an accident. A medical error, it's an accident. A car accident, when you fall down, when you slip, all these are accidents. And you may have a natural disaster. You may have climatic, biological, you may have weather conditions and all this. So this is less than intentional. This is nature. But it can be very traumatic for the people. If you take in the west coast of Canada and the United States, last year we had forest fires, and they they were long in time. They were during weeks and weeks. So the people who were living there, they had all the smoke. They have to go away, to leave their house behind them. This was very traumatic for them. They lost everything. Some cities were burned totally. So this is natural disaster. One other important thing is that one event may trigger the remembering of a past traumatic event. So if you are in a bus or in the metro and you are aggressed, and if this happened 3 years ago, it will trigger that. So we have to understand that the emotion connected to the past trauma will be felt with the present traumatic event. So you do have an addition of all the previous event, the emotion connected with the previous event to this one. So sometimes you have somebody who react heavily to a simple event. And it's just because this simple event, it can be a threat, it can be a word, it can be just a reaction to of somebody. But for this person, this trigger the remembering of something else that went in the past. And then you observe a huge reaction which you don't understand. It's not understandable with this external reality, but it comes understandable with the internal perceptual reality. You see? So we have to consider that other variable. You have something that happened, and that something trigger all the souvenirs, remembrance of other situations in the past. That's it. We this leads to a concept which is very important in clinical psychology, and in the treatment we can uh, give to people. We call that emotional transference. The transference is the definition of it, and I will read it because it's a little bit complex. The fact of taking an emotion associated to an event or a person in the past or in the present. So you have the emotion connected to that. And unconsciously, you're not aware of that. Unconsciously, you associate that emotion to the present situation and and the present person in the present situation. So you are transposing emotion from a person, a situation, to another person, to another situation. We call that transference, emotional transference. This process is there minute after minute in our daily life. It's always there. We always connect emotions, transpose, transfer. We do that all the time. Yourself, when I look at you, you remember somebody else, and this person remember me somebody else. So it must be the same thing with me. So it's like that all the time. A therapist must understand that process. If he doesn't understand that process, he will not understand the emotions and the reactions of the person he is working with.